Steve?
You need your production manager?
Steve?
Okay, Michael said we're good to go when the mayor comes back.
I had to turn his cell phone off. Okay, we're ready?
We're ready.
Welcome to the Oakland Mayor and Council meeting virtually. It is Wednesday, April 22nd, roll call.
Mayor Schwager,
Here.
Councilman Bialy,
Here.
Councilman Knapp,
Here.
Councilman Levy,
Here.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Here.
Councilman Talamini,
Here.
Councilman Van Ack.
Here.
We dispense with the salute to the flag because we're all in different places and you can all do your salute in your own home. At this time, I just ask everyone for a moment of silence. Think about all those people who are sick, the family members, friends, and we pray for everybody.
Special prayers for our fire personnel.
Gary Walker. Okay. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law and New Jersey State Guidelines via virtual meetings, duly announced, advertised, and posted in the municipal building. And do we have someone who could announce to the people how they can, if they want to speak during the public portion?
I believe they have to raise their hand and Michael can see it and he'll unmute them and let them speak.
Okay, thank you. All right, my mayor's report for tonight. Every night, as you know, I send out telephone messages to inform our residents about the issues in our town and the impact of the public health crisis. And to receive these calls, some people are still asking me, how do they get my telephone calls? So this is the way you go. Please tell everybody, you go to the Borough website, www.oakland-nj.org, and click on Swift Reach. And you can add your telephone number so that you too can get the calls and that you can get the alerts. As you're aware, very much aware, because we've all heard this, yard waste pickup has not been on schedule this week and last week. And this is because the hauler has had staffing problems. Leave your yard waste at the curb, and we were supposedly assured, that the yard waste will be picked up this week, just not on the scheduled dates of Monday and Tuesday. And just to remind everybody, as I stated at the last council meeting, the Memorial Day parade in Oakland has been canceled this year, and we hope to see all of you there next year. I invite everybody to call me or to email me and with complaints. I get a lot of complaints and I do answer your complaints. So email me at mayorschwager@oakland-nj.org. But the one thing I won't do is I will not respond to anonymous names and letters. Please just give me your name so I know who I'm talking to, that you're an Oakland resident. I keep your name in confidence, so don't worry about that. But please, if you have a complaint, a suggestion, anything, just tell me who you are. There was a big complaint last week on the Suburban News that if you don't get the Record, I still get the Record newspaper. So the Suburban News comes inside the Record on Thursdays. But where my office is, we don't get the Record. So I come and I find a bunch of Suburban News in plastic all over my parking lot. And I go around and I pick them up and I throw them out. We've had some residents complain about it, and I have called Suburban News, still waiting for a response from them. But I can't force them not to, but I'm requesting them to at least listen to the people who don't want it, so you don't throw it on their property. So I read on Facebook, was brought to my attention, so I went through Facebook and I read that someone complained that the numbers I give nightly are not always accurate, and there's a discrepancy between the numbers I give and the numbers they have. And just so everybody knows, every evening I get a call from our county health inspector who gives me the numbers for that day from Oakland. He gives me the positive cases and the deaths. I also get the Bergen County totals. Then the next day I get, in the afternoon, I get the totals from the state, from the governor. So numbers change daily, they change hourly. The numbers I give are the numbers that are given to me by the people who are counting. So that's how I get my numbers. If you have a problem, just let me know and find out where you're getting your numbers. If you're getting different counts, then it's something we could talk about. But don't put it on Facebook. Call me, email me, tell me what numbers are in discrepancy. And again, I just want you to know that I will respond to you, but please, you have to give me a name. Anonymous calls, anonymous emails. I don't know where they come from, so I won't respond. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, did anybody raise their hand?
Okay. Let me
Is that a
turn,
yes?
let me turn this one down. Okay. You got us out?
There's, Mayor,
Yes.
there's an individual on the screen. The name is Morello, who's raising the hand on the screen and not on the Zoom app.
Michael, do you see that?
Yes, he's unmuted.
Okay,
Okay,
Well-
Mr. Morello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Mayor, thanks for taking the call. I emailed you. Hi.
You have to give your address too,
Oh, I'm sorry, 8 River Road, Oakland, New Jersey, of course.
of course.
49 years in the same house.
I-
I emailed you beginning of last
Yes.
week, last Monday, regarding the closing of the path, the walking path.
Yes,
And my family, other people who walk there are very upset about it. And I'd like to know what the reasoning was behind closing the path. That's number one. Go ahead.
number two,
Well, I want to know, again, why it was done. I mean, we now, a lot of people don't have sidewalks. People, they're not going to walk in the streets. We've been going there since March 12th, when this all started. And every day we look forward to taking our walk, weather permitting. There are maybe 6 to 8 people walking that circumference at one time at different intervals. If we pass each other, everybody moves aside and does the social distancing. Now, we have to walk on that sidewalk by the Valley School, where the sidewalk is very narrow. So now, if somebody comes the other way, somebody has to step into the street. We probably get killed or hurt by doing that, as opposed to the path. But I want to know why this decision was made.
okay, Rich, I'm going to not ignore you, but
Okay.
I'm going to move it into a work session item. I'm going to move it down so that we can have a full discussion of the council. Because you just don't want to hear my answer, you want to hear the council's
Well,
response.
yeah, I mean, I want
So
to
I'm
hear
gonna move
the
you-
answer.
So are you going to stay on? But it's not going to be a long meeting, so stay on so that you
Okay.
can hear the whole council discussion.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, man.
anyone else? Mike, I see a hand going up. I saw a hand on John and Jody. Mike,
Okay, 1 second.
you have to bear with us, everybody. We didn't have anybody speak at the last meeting. So this is new for us.
Hi. Can someone tell us the reasoning?
Wait, stop. You have to give us your name and address.
John and Jody Goffredo, 44 Sioux Avenue.
Yes.
Can you tell us the reason behind stopping the church service on TV?
That is
Were there
between
other-
the Oakland Communications Committee has to review the bylaws. It was something that was done, and we kept it done over the holiday. I said, do not stop.
That's not
during
true.
the religious holiday. And so this is an issue that has to be brought up with the Oakland Communications Council Committee, because it was that particular issue was the only house of worship or any entity that was in violation of their bylaws, and they have to review their bylaws. So it has to be the Oakland Communications Committee.
Okay, so, but everybody's continuing the service on TV?
Until they meet, until that's something that the Oakland Communications Committee will be meeting.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
anytime. Yes, I see a hand, Barbara.
Next up, we have Colleen.
Oh, what happened to Barbara Stansfield?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, okay, I saw your hand up.
Yes, Barbara Stansfield, 19 Wilson Street in Oakland. Hi, how are you? How's everybody? Just a question. Will you folks be discussing tonight the sewage treatment area that's going to be occurring on Huber Pond? The Huber Pond field that we were just all made aware of. Boswell Engineering was here inspecting and checking things out.
That's not on the agenda. Richard, where are you?
I'm right here. Yeah, it's not on the agenda. And I don't know if John wants to weigh in on this as well. So as you know, we're planning on decommissioning the 3 package plants. Part of that system redesign calls for a new pump station on a lot that we're foreclosing on adjacent to Huber Lake. And if I understand the question, they're looking for some details on that design, where on the lot it's going to go, what its footprint is going to be, and things like that, if I'm correct. I don't have a lot of those direct answers now. We're still waiting to see the final plans from Boswell, but perhaps John can fill in some of those blanks now to the extent that he can.
John Ukimic here, town engineer. Nothing further than that, Rich. It's currently under the design now. And when it comes to a point when we could present a rendering on what it will look like, we will certainly present that.
What we'll do is, I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to have, I'll have to call a meeting, of all those residents involved around Huber Lake and go through this in detail.
This is already a done deal.
Is it a done deal? It's the only way it could be. Well, Richard?
Brian,
Wait,
the conceptual design right now calls for a pump station at that location, but where exactly, on that lot and what the footprint is going to be, that I'm not sure of because we haven't seen the final design plan. So I think a community meeting to explain that to everybody, the whys and the hows and the whats will be called for.
Okay, because my neighbor sent a letter to Mr. Schwager Mayor Schwager regarding this and our property values and our concerns. So is this going to be discussed and not just with the design, because that a design indicates to me that it's something going forward that's in the works and it's not being discussed?
We will have to meet with the residents and describe everything that's happening. So you'll be well aware of what's happening.
When would that be?
When will that be?
We can do it on Zoom. That's why I'm asking,
Don't,
If I may, Rich and I, we'll probably, let me check with our design team, see where they are. And you and
all
I
right,
could
Barbara,
talk.
could you email me your email address?
Yes.
And then I can get in touch with you and then we can coordinate that.
Well, a letter has been sent to you too from our neighbor across the street.
Yes, but I want you to email me with your email address and then I can get back to you on this issue.
Okay. because
Okay.
we're a little upset about some things, so
Well, that's why we have to talk.
that's exactly right.
Okay, I saw another hand going up.
Thank you.
Okay, Francesco Spinella.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes.
Frank Spinella, 17 Sienna Way, Oakland. So just have a question. Has it been voted on that it's going to go there by a committee, an Oakland committee?
Going where? What are you talking about?
Oh, following up on what?
Yuba Lake?
Correct. Has a
Right.
committee of the Oakland committee, someone just approved that it's going to happen there?
Well, don't we have, it has to do with the land. Brian, where's Brian?
I'm here. All right, right now, my understanding is the preliminary design had a pump station in that location. So we are in the process of foreclosing on the tax lien that exists on that land. We're probably about 40 days away from taking ownership of the property.
We don't own the property.
So I guess my question is the same one that I just asked you. I guess there's a committee. You have different committees on your council, or the whole council
Well,
already
it's the
approved
Water and
going
Sewer
there?
Committee, but the council will have to vote, the entire council.
So it hasn't been voted that this is going there.
Well, no, because we don't own the property yet.
Okay. So you might buy the property and then we might bring it to your attention and you might.
Well,
just-
no,
you
it's
might
in
not go forward with
foreclosure
it?
right now. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, it's the municipality has a tax lien. We're not buying the property, we're foreclosing on the lien.
I guess it was a piece of property that the property owners had owned in the past, but failed to pay taxes on it, which
It
then
was-
in foreclosure.
It was
Right.
owned by,
Who,
You
Colleen?
have to be addressed, and then you have to give your name and address. Yes. Who's speaking?
Colleen O'Keefe, 15 Wilson Street.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, we would like to understand the thought process around taking one of the few green spaces that is used. And the gentleman who spoke before me lives, 2 blocks away, but I'm sure comes down here fishing with his kids. And, I see the use of that area by, people with their dogs, kids fishing every day, families over there. So I'm curious too, as to the decision-making process and the fact that seems like one of the last places that makes sense in Oakland, next to the water, which is always, a concern. And I've, living on that water, know that there are a lot of restrictions around building in those areas. And also, again, just taking one of the last green spaces in Oakland, an open field where, the Heights area and the Manitou area, people use it all the time. So
This
that's
has
the
a lot
concern.
to do with the whole sewer project and what's going on above you. The sewage treatment plant, which one is that called? Brian, what's
Skytop.
Skytop, which has
Skyview.
failed and failing. So this is an issue. It's a very big issue that I think we have to have a special meeting just for this. And so Barbara's going to send me her email. I'll get back to everybody and just give me everybody's name and we'll let you know. We really have to have a meeting on this with the residents around Yuba Lake. I think that's very important. And so you understand what's happening.
Well, I understand what's happening now, but it would have been nice to understand what was happening while decisions were being made. I think that's the frustration that Barbara's trying to explain is we live on this lake, and
Yeah.
we bought our property, knowing that, and we're going to now look across the lake and see a sewage treatment plant. So
Yeah, that's-
it seems like the most illogical place in the world that it would make sense to put something like that. And I'm sure there are reasons, but we would need to understand that, there's an electrical plant down the road in Franklin Lakes that's up a hill and buried in the woods. They didn't put it on a prominent open field that, kids and residents use every single day.
But who owns it?
Okay, well, exactly. I know who owns it, Crystal Lake Association from 50 years back, and it couldn't get a clean title, and it was the whole crazy
Right.
situation, and I get that. But as, a citizen living in Oakland, on one of the things that made Oakland what it is these beautiful lakes, I find it sort of ironic that the place to put a sewage plant is right next to two of the lakes that make the town what it is. So
I
when
appreciate-
when Oakland owns it, I would hope they would make a better decision, is my point.
I appreciate what you have just said. And like I said, we're going to have a meeting with the residents around it so you understand what's happening with our engineer and with our attorney. I think that's an important issue just to discuss and spend time just on that.
But the funny,
Linda, may I talk, Linda, one second?
Where are
I just
you?
wanna-
I don't know
I
where
just
you
wanna-
are.
Linda,
Who's speaking?
John Vial.
John,
Oh,
I just want to say, I've heard the terminology used sewage treatment plant. It's not a sewage treatment plant. It's a pump.
Correct.
It's only moving water. It's not doing anything else.
Not
It's
treat.
taking water from one location where the sewage treatment plant is now and moving it into the sewage system. It is not a sewage treatment plant. It is only a pump.
that's why I said that we have to have a special meeting just on this. So all the residents around there and affected by it understand exactly what's happening with the plans, with the ideas, with the engineers describing everything. So we will have a meeting shortly. We'll have to have it on Zoom because I don't think we're going to be having in-person meetings in the near future. So we probably will have to have a Zoom meeting, and so we'll have to coordinate it with everybody involved.
well,
I promise you, we will have a meeting shortly, so you'll know what's happening. Can't do anything yet. The property hasn't been foreclosed, so nothing is happening now, nothing. So we'll have a meeting first, so you understand what's happening before, and we'll spend a meeting just on this.
you have all kinds of wildlife that live there. You got turtles, you got,
Barbara, I
Osprey.
understand that, and like I said, we will have a meeting just on this.
I understand, but it would have been nice to understand before Boswell shows up on the property and tells us what's going on. That would have been nice.
You're right.
Yeah, communication
you.
is key, Linda.
I
Communication is
agree.
key.
I agree.
Okay? Don't hide things. It comes out badly.
I didn't think we were hiding it, and I do apologize that you were not aware. So we
Well,
will have a meeting, that all the
yeah.
residents will be notified, and I will get the list and we will send it out, and we'll have to have a Zoom meeting on this.
It probably needs to be a wider than just the people that live on the lake, because
Yeah,
as I
right.
was saying, it's, neighbors that don't touch the lake that walk over here with their
The
kids.
whole area,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just the lake, the whole area. I
Yes.
agree. Okay, anybody else?
Mayor, just so that the record is clear, we seem to be bouncing around and we still have to control this like it was an in-person meeting. So one person should be recognized, and when a person speaks, that name should be identified so that we are keeping adequate records and minutes.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, Frank Spinella, just one more question. How would I be notified of this meeting? Like, how should
We
I
will
do it?
notify you. We will get your name and address. We'll notify you.
Okay,
Where, you live on where?
17 Sienna Way.
All right, we will get the whole area.
Thank
Well,
you.
Sienna is not, Sienna is further in, isn't it?
It's a cut through. It's right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
There a motion, anybody else? There's the motion to close?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Someone say second?
Yeah, she have a second.
Mayor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Special announcements. Oh, approval of the minutes. We have minutes from April 7th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There a
Second.
second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? What's that?
Somebody has a TV on.
No, I had my other iPad on because the other iPad, for some reason, got.
Oh my God.
It's bad enough we have to listen to them one time.
Hey, you. Okay. We have a first, we have a motion and a second and no discussion.
Mayor,
Roll call.
Mayor,
Yes,
I was trying to communicate. This is a meeting that's open to the public, correct? This
yes,
board,
but we already closed the motion. We already closed the
yeah,
public.
for
portion.
some reason you weren't hearing me when I was trying to, even
Well,
before.
that's what Brian was saying, that there's no I only have on my iPad, I only have room for 9 rectangles of
Right.
people.
Maybe if I do this, Mayor, when you're on Zoom, if you look at the bottom, it'll say participants. If you click on participants, it'll show everyone who's on the meeting.
Mhm.
There is a portion on the bottom, a little box that says raise hand. And that's the way you're supposed to get attention so Michael can see it. Now, you're on an iPad, so you don't see everybody. But we have 37 participants now.
Oh, we have more than we never have at a meeting. Thank you all.
I
So, John.
did try to
John,
type it. Yes,
all right,
yes,
but
Mayor.
John, listen to me.
Yes.
The council already voted to close to the public portion, but as you know, we have another public portion. So we
Sure.
will be there shortly. So
Okay.
then now you're gonna have to sit here and listen to us.
Oh, I'm enjoying the video. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so. we're
Really?
up
You're
to
enjoying
roll
this?
call we're at roll call for the minutes.
Councilman Bialy,
Is he there?
He's muted.
he's muted.
Yes,
Okay. Councilman Knapp,
Yes.
Councilman Levy,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
That you heard?
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
Okay, now we're at special announcements and appointments. The request by Rotary has been withdrawn because what happened was we used to have a borough banner that ran across 202, which announced the carnival and announced different activities. It was hooked up to the, there's Lou Levy in front of the bridge. So the banner used to be hooked across 202 and hooked up to 2 Rockland Electric poles that have been removed, and they are not giving us permission anymore. So the banner that we put up to thank all our first responders is now going to Bush Plaza. It was picked up this evening and it will be put up tomorrow. So that part of the announcements is withdrawn, but we have somebody for the green team. And I want to thank Rachel Spina for volunteering to go on the green team. Thank you, and get in touch. And that's my appointment.
That's your
Lisa?
appointment. Mhm.
Yes. So just please, Rachel, if you can contact Borough Hall and get in touch with Lisa to get all the information on the green team. And thank you so much for volunteering to join the green team. Now we have resolutions, which I'll do by consent agenda, unless you want any pulled out. 2126. Is authorize the bond release of resurfacing of the parking lot of 118 Bower Drive in the amount of $10,000. 127, authorize right of access agreement, and this is with the Borough and 10F Properties for the property owned by 10F Properties, that is 201 West Oakland Avenue, Block 2003, Lot 2. 2128, reject bid digital information sign. We received bids on March 12th, 2020, but the borough is reconsidering its bid specifications. So now we have to reject the bid we have to reject the bid. And 2129 is to award the bid for the senior center generator, and it's with Power with Prestige Inc. out of Newton, New Jersey. They submitted the lowest bid, and it's responsive and responsible. The total price of $92,000. That's for the generator at the senior center. And 2130 is to hire seasonal laborer for the Department of Public Works. It would be Ed Lockowitz, effective April 23rd, 2020, at $12 an hour. There a motion to approve?
So
I-
moved.
Any
I'd
pulled
like-
out?
I'd like to pull out the 2129.
The generator for the senior center?
Sorry, sorry. Trying to do this on the iPad and the Zoom. The 2128.
The digital, you don't want to accept the bids? This
What's
is to
that?
reject the bids. That's
This is
to reject the bids.
To reject the bids, yeah. Do we need to pull that out and have a discussion from last meeting, or should we just move forward? I just want to bring that up.
Well, do
'cause
you
there
want
was
to
some
reject
discussion.
the bid or not reject the bid?
My
discuss it.
is to just move ahead with rejecting it. There's no funding in place, and as we've discussed already, yeah, I think there's going to be some further discussion later about the location of it. What I would recommend is just having a further discussion about this item when we discuss the capital budget overall, as part of the overall budget process, in May, early June.
Thank you, Rich. That's all.
All right, anybody else? Motion,
Yeah, I think I have the same microwave Pat does.
microwave?
Yeah, I see Pat's microwave in the background.
Oh. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I motion that I have the same microwave as Pat.
Second,
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Knapp,
Yes.
Councilman Levy,
Yes.
Councilman Pinishelli,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
yes.
Okay, resolution 2132 is the introduction of the budget. And before we vote on the introduction, do you want to make your presentation, David?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor. I am going to share.
Mayor, David,
Yes.
Yes.
just one thing real quick. I'm going to be leaving the meeting at 10 after 8. I apologize, but the fire department, we're all going down by Gary.
I understand.
So I'll be cutting out.
Okay.
Sorry, Bob. My condolences, buddy.
Thank you.
Sorry, Bob.
Not yet.
All right. So am I sharing? Is everybody seeing the budget introduction presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
This is what we're going to review. We're going to talk about budget appropriations, bring up our capital plan. We won't go into that in too much detail. Then we'll talk about anticipated revenue and the tax impact. That's all current fund. Then we'll discuss the water and utility and sewer utility budgets. Just so everybody knows, specifically for the public, we start the budget process in September. Department heads, commission chairs, they get budget packages, they review them, they look at where their finances and their capital plans are going to be, and they submit those. Those are reviewed in October by the CFO and the administrator. November, December, we have budget review meetings with everybody to see where we're going to be for the next budget season. We then review those with the finance committee in December, January. February, March, we'll go back to departments, finalize anything, address any concerns. We'll March, April, review with the full governing body, which we did last week, the proposed budget, get their input. And then we have today's meeting, which is the introduction. In a month or so from now in May, we will look to adopt the budget, providing there aren't any amendments. And then May, June, we'll finalize the capital plan. So that's kind of generally the full year cycle process that we go through for the budget. Some key considerations that we look at every year. We look at the impact not just to the current year, we look at the next 4 budget cycles. We look at all of our contractual expenses. We know what we're doing with contracts. We have solid waste contracts. We have contracts with Morris County Health Services, and we know what our statutory expenditures, they all get rolled in. We look at identifying capital expenditures that are going to be included in this year's budget. We look for support for ongoing infrastructure, streets and roads. We have our ongoing replacement schedules for vehicles, and we look to prioritize any other critical needs that are out there. The borough has a surplus utilization policy that they adopt every year, so we make sure we're in compliance to how much of our surplus or fund balance we're using. We know what we're supposed to get from the state in terms of energy receipt tax. And this year, we actually went back and we delayed introduction a little bit because we had to reevaluate all of the budgets based upon the coronavirus. So we did look at some revenues, brought some revenues down, looked at expenses where we're going to see increases and or potential decreases because of the pandemic. We are certainly in compliance with all of our appropriation and levy cap requirements, and we're in compliance with our statutory debt limit. In terms of this year's budget, how it's distributed on the appropriation side, about 38% of our budget is in salary and wages. That's contractual. We just went through the negotiation cycle with both of our collective bargaining units. So that's a fairly fixed cost. The variable element there is what we do in terms of headcount and replacement. Pension health benefits, we get those numbers from the state. It's about a year lag in terms of what actuals are driving those. We have fixed operating expense. Those are all of our contracts, statutory, that's about 15%. The RUT is our reserve for uncollected taxes because we do have to pay the school and the county no matter what we collect. There is a surplus that we put into the budget just to make sure we do collect enough taxes to be able to pay everybody. And then we have our variable operating expenses, which are non-contractual, but relatively fixed, things like utilities, vehicle replacement parts, ammo for the police department, and then capital and debt. Our debt's fairly fixed for this year. The capital is a variable part that we'll talk about as we move forward in the budget process. The key budget drivers for this year, our total budget on the appropriation side is up about 1.7%. Salary and wages are actually down this year, about $42,000. When we look at what's making up the increases, you can see how they break out both inside and outside the cap. Rich, you want to touch on any highlights for those?
Just real briefly, we went over this in some detail at the last week's budget meeting. IT has a number of items in it related to cybersecurity assessments and penetration testing and the like, several license renewals coming up. Insurance, that's health insurance for the most part. Rates are only up about 1% in the aggregate. What's driving that more or less is census, is headcount. Changes on people that had waivers that are now on benefits and the like. Code enforcement was based on discussions that we had last year in terms of service improvements that we were looking to make there. So, when you get into the details, there's a full phase in of a shared service agreement, as well as the addition of a new employee there focused on fire prevention and property maintenance. And solid waste costs, which are up substantially. Small part of that is contractual. We're in the last year of our solid waste collection contract, and most of the rest of that is due to changes in the recycling markets, where our cost for disposal for recyclables is increasing. Okay, that's it, Dave.
Okay. Thanks, Rich. The 2020 capital plan, two things you'll see. You'll see items that are highlighted in blue. Those are part of our ongoing replacement schedule. Those are things that we're trying to stay in front of. We have a very large fleet. We need to maintain that. We have large infrastructure. A lot of items in here go into our large infrastructure. We have a very, very large item in Patriots Way Bridge replacement. It's estimated 3.6 million, and that's just our investment into it. We do have some grants that are going to be going into that as well. And there's some other items that we've gone through with the various departments that kind of build out the rest of this year's capital plan. On the revenue side, we have our non-tax revenues. Again, this is something that we had to look at real hard this year with the coronavirus and a lot of our town shut down a little bit. We anticipate that a lot of our fees and licenses are going to be a little bit short than what they normally are. To offset that, we're anticipating about $90,000 more surplus this year. That's probably a little bit, maybe 50, 60,000 more than we've ever anticipated before. But we thought that was a good investment this year since we were seeing a decline in some of the other miscellaneous revenues. Those other revenues that I talked about are down about $180,000. And that's, we think, from March through June, we're just not going to see what we normally do year over year. Overall, the non-tax revenue is going to be down around $307,000. So we have appropriations that are up a little bit, and we have the non-tax revenue down a little bit, which leaves us with some challenges on the other side. Fund balance or surplus. This is just kind of a quick chart. It shows what we've been able to build in terms of the balance. We had some very good years in terms of finance from 15 through 17. We were able to build our surplus up. You can see the last couple of years, what we anticipate for this year, we will actually be utilizing more surplus than we are replenishing. All these numbers now fit within the surplus policy, so we're in compliance with that as well. The municipal tax levy represents around 23% of all the taxes that we collect in town. The remainder, about 46%, goes to the local school, 20% to the regional school, and you can see the chunk that the county gets as well. This is fairly consistent year over year. That number, that 23%, hasn't changed much in the last 10 years.
So I have a question, David.
Yes.
So we collect the taxes for the town, for the library, for the county, for the local schools and the regional schools. Correct.
That's
we
correct.
Get to keep at all the taxes we collect. We only get to keep approximately 23% of that for our expenses in the town. Is that correct so far? So
Yep, that's correct, and that's fairly typical for most towns as well.
Right. So my question is, our next tax payment is due May 1st. So when we collect the taxes, which are the second quarter taxes, for May 1st, we then take that collection and we have to divide it up, and we then have to pay the school and the county and the regional. Is that correct?
That's correct. We collect our taxes from the residents in the second month. I've already paid the school 1/3 of the second quarter taxes to them. I pay the county their full billet on May 15th, and I do a monthly also in May and June to the schools.
So this has been a discussion I've been having with all the mayors in the Northwest Mayors Group that I belong to, plus with the county, plus with everybody whenever we have the calls with the governor's office. So if we delay in collecting our taxes that are due May 1st, and we extend it, but we still have to pay the local school, the regional school, and the county, how would we get the money if we don't have it?
Yeah, we would, if we were going to delay tax payment, and you'd have to seriously look at the potential risk of having to take out tax anticipation notes. Spoke to both bond counsel and the auditor. They both recommend, as I do, against doing anything in terms of the tax collection for the second quarter. We are going out to bond in the summer for a $10 million bond. Tax anticipation notes are one of those items that will lower your bond rating. So we would then be going out to bond and have to pay more interest rates long term. We'd also have to cost about $35,000 more per month into the budget, according to the bond counsel, for what it would cost us to pay for the TANs. So there's a pretty good expense on the one side, and then we have
Dave,
to.
what is that total? What is the total expense of those items put together?
It's
how much would we need to borrow?
So if we have to borrow, we have to make some assumptions. There are businesses out there, mortgage companies, mortgage payment companies, that pay us about probably $8 million of the $15 million a year that we collect. If they chose not to pay us because they could keep the money themselves rather than giving it to us if there's no penalty to them, we'd have to assume that we'd probably have to take a TAN out for $5 million.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Dave, can I just ask you a question? Just I want to be clear, make sure everybody else understands it. So
Yes, sir.
on average, the taxpayer in Oakland pays about $14,000 a year in property taxes. So quarterly, that comes out to about $3,500 a quarter. Sound right? Out of
I
that,
think it's a little bit less, than that. I think the average taxpayer is around 28.
okay,
per
so
quarter.
28. So that means really we're paying about $700 out of every tax payment is what the borough gets to keep. The rest of it all goes to this, the schools, the county, and open space, and the library gets 1% of it, $28.
Yeah, they do, and their budgets are very similar to ours. The schools don't have a lot of places where they can cut because so much of their costs are in services, that they provide to all the kids in terms of salaries and everything else. So, they're in similar position to us. It's not easy for them to not get, the revenue that they need.
I'm not arguing that. I don't know what the school, what the school budget is because they don't discuss it with us. But so it sounds to me like the school systems combined get about 66% of that $3,000 a month or $3,000 a quarter.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Just to look back a little bit in terms of the history of the tax levy over the last 10 years, it's averaging, even including this year's, which has got is higher than it's been any time in the recent past. It's been averaging about 1.76%. If you want to look at the other side of that other 75%, the non-municipal tax levy, they've been averaging a little bit over 2.1% for the past 10 years. The cap on the appropriations levy is right at that 2%. You've got some room in there for things that are outside of cap, and most of the items that are driving our budget up this year are outside of cap. That's why that number's at 4.5. So the tax levy for 2020, it's looking at about a 4.25% increase. This is as a result of the appropriation side, the expenses being up, and our anticipated revenue going to be down this year due to what we think the impact is going to be of the coronavirus. On the average assessed property, that will look like about $123.45 for the full year. And again, that's still below 1.76, and roughly it's been about a $50 per year increase for the past 10. You can see on the right where the blue non-municipal is the orange. So you can see where the majority of your annual tax increase has gone to. The borough has been fairly stable at around that $50 mark. Any questions on the current fund part of the municipal budget?
Yeah, David, if you don't mind, just quick question. I'm looking at your budget year and your graph on the bottom left there with the budget year and the municipal portion of the budget. Why is 2018 so low? It seems like that's strange.
2018 was the year that we had planned just about a 0% increase. I think the council had put together a 0% increase. The only reason it actually even did that $9.12 was because the valuation taxable rateables changed.
So it looks like that had a little bit of a impact on 2020 also.
It does.
Yeah.
Every.
Okay, that just.
Okay.
Thank you.
The water utility budget, just going to do one slide on the water utility budget. The budget itself, both the revenue and the appropriation side are going up by 2.6%. The largest chunk of the increase is going to be on our capital. We've got requirements due to the New Jersey Water Quality Act that we have to do a lot more on our infrastructure. So we're starting to build up the capability to do that. We did implement a 2% increase in the variable rate, and the base charge is moved up to $49.04 per quarter. Sewer budget is actually down by 10%. We also implemented our annual 2% increase in the variable rate on that. The big difference in terms of the 2019 budget was way up from 18 and the 2020 being down. We had some one-time costs due to the operator changeover that we won't be seeing going forward. So it's been a little kind of a peak that we had in that budget that'll level back out to where it typical run rate has been.
Hey,
Thank you.
David, just a quick question. How much of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
123.45 is from capital expenses?
It's if you look at every $100,000 of increase or decrease, that represents about $20 of that. So for every $100,000 in terms of capital that we put into the budget for this year, and the capital budget's up a couple $100,000, that represents $20. So that's roughly what you're talking about there. So when we look at the generator and the building improvements potentially to the library, that is up to $100,000. That equates to $20 out of that 123.
So tonight, this is just to introduce the budget. This is not to discuss the budget. We already had a budget meeting, and now this is to introduce the budget. So when it says, and the resolution that we have to pass tonight is just so that we introduce the budget to everybody. Everybody should review the budget. We invite the public to get a copy of the budget, the proposed budget, and review it. And then we can hear from the public. So tonight's resolution is just to introduce the budget and to say that the hearing of the budget will be on May 27th. So at this time, I will ask for motion just to introduce the budget. That's all we're doing tonight.
So moved.
Is there a
Second,
second?
Go ahead, Russ, I'm sorry.
Well, Russell is the chairman.
Right, so
so
he
moved.
said,
So did he move it?
Yes.
he did. I submit the floor to Councilman Talamini.
Go back on the bridge. All right, at this time, roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
yes.
Councilman Levy,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
I very cautiously do this. I think we need to meet and review and do a lot more work with my colleagues here on the council. My first time, since it's only being introduced, I will vote yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, David, for the beautiful presentation.
Yeah, great job
You're
again,
welcome,
Dave.
Mayor.
Now, we do not have, so the next item is work session, and we do not have any items, but I had promised Rich and his wife, I lost them. Are they still on? To talk about the walking path. Does anyone want to bring up the issue of the walking path?
In the public, you mean?
No, and the council.
Well, so Mayor, I mean, I listen to a lot of folks on both sides of this. And I guess, if we're being told by subject matter experts that we're best off not doing it, then I think we have to be a little cautious about opening the path. I understand that people want to walk, but we do have places to walk. I mean, actually, as you and I were talking today, Linda, Bobby was walking around the Borough complex. So people can walk and they can stay separated. Unfortunately, when I think, Rich, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but when we did try and leave some of these facilities open, we wound up with a lot of social distancing issues, didn't we?
Well, what had happened was we closed down the rec facilities relatively early on in all of this. And that included the walking path. What happened most recently was that we'd put up additional signage there because people were walking there. We were noticing that. So we put up additional signs. But the walking path was actually closed since the rest of the facility was closed down as well. So nothing in that venue had really changed in terms of what our regulations have been. And yes, the concern was that, we still need to socially distance. We still need to keep the facilities closed. That we were just reinforcing that, for right now. And I think we all understand the desire, especially with the weather warming up, to get out there and to use it and to, get some exercise and get out of the house. But what we're hearing is we still need to, keep these facilities closed right now and keep on keeping on for the moment.
I mean, I know that I heard somebody make a suggestion, and it might have been Mike Wadena, I don't remember. One thing that when things start to loosen up, maybe what we could do is open the path up in one direction only, so that everybody's walking in the same direction. And that might help keep people from passing by each other. And maybe make, social distancing. I guess the question is, are there parts of that path that the police can't supervise from their cars to make, just to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing? Because if they're not, and we did open it, we'd have to close it again. So we do have to be able to monitor it somehow.
I think for passive exercise, fresh air, it is incredibly important that we have this available to our residents. You could make the argument too, the health problems that result from sitting idle or only breathing the air with inside your own home, and not getting the proper stretching and exercise that a passive, especially for seniors, a walking path provides for our residents. I think a phased approach, which we did receive a phased in plan from the Rec Commission and from Dr. Mike about maybe phase one would be to open something like the walking path for that passive enjoyment and exercise and leisure. Of course, you can't enforce everything everybody does all the time. And there's a lot of things that are not within the purview of this governing body, like enforcing things and who's to determine who is who and who knows who, or who's living within the same house. It's difficult to enforce that to begin with.
May I say something? Linda, Mayor, may I say something?
Who's speaking?
Rick.
Oh,
Rick Morello.
Well, we're not open to the public. Does the
Oh,
council want?
but all right, you said to me
Right,
to say-
well, when we open it to the public, we'll continue the discussion. But I wanted each of the council people to have a time to speak up about the walking path.
I believe we should open it back up.
Well, it's not open yet.
Okay.
We'll get there shortly.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to say, I agree.
Who's speaking? Wait a minute.
This is John Bialy.
Oh, okay.
I just want to say, there's nobody more wants this open more than myself. I want all the rec fields open. I want everything open. But the same issues that come up when New York says they're going to open something and Connecticut doesn't and New Jersey doesn't, you have that possibility of cross transportation to take advantage of the guy who opened. And I think that might be an opportunity for Franklin Lakes, Mawa, Wyckoff people to hear that Oakland opened up a walking path and they all migrate to Oakland to the walking path to take advantage. Now, we can't put a police officer there to check your residency, and it might become cumbersome, but it's one of the difficult maneuvers that we are facing in opening a path without any other parks opened in the area. So we do take that chance of having cross people from other communities coming in. But like I said, I'd love to see everything open myself. I think what Mike Guadagnino put together is a good opening way to get things started. But I believe we have to wait a little bit, wait for maybe the county to open up a park and then start easing back in to becoming, communal again, you might say, and opening up those recreation areas for everyone to enjoy.
Mayor, if I may, and I apologize for taking two shots at this, but I listened to what John says, and you know what? you think about what's happened in all the high density areas like, Teaneck, you and I spoke about Teaneck and how high their rates are there, and Hackensack, which you'd expect because it's so densely populated. And John brings up a good point. If we start becoming the focal point for all the surrounding towns to come here, we wind up becoming, the next hot spot in Bergen County. And maybe that's not the smartest thing to do at this time. Maybe we are better off following suit, and we all work, we all open together, we all close together, all the towns, at least in this general area.
Councilman Pignatelli, you still here?
You're on mute, Pat.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Pat,
Yes, I'm
Pat, are
here.
you there?
I'm here. Yes, Mayor.
You're involved. You're a former health officer. What is your opinion?
As you know, as many people know, I walk all the time.
I know, I see you on the sidewalk.
You walk down 202, that's as dangerous as it gets.
Anyway.
Knows that.
Oh, wait a minute, you do know that.
Yes. Anyway,
or your rib.
I am in favor of exercise and walking. However, I do understand the public health aspect of possibility of people getting ill, which nobody wants to happen. I know a resident did bring to my attention that that people walk in opposite directions, and that causes a problem on the walking path. So obviously, some people are using the walking path anyway. I agree with Mr. Guadagnino pointed out. I believe Mr. Benek said, Mr. Guadagnino said that possibly when we do open and make it go in all in one direction, which probably would help. I pass 6 or 8 or 10 people every day. I go for a walk, and I do. I'll go on the grass, or I'll go maybe on the edge of the roadway, which is dangerous, but I always make sure there's no cars coming my way.
Well, you were walking in a parking lot and look what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat.
But anyway, we do have to be cautious. However, I am in favor of exercise. I think it would be very, very much welcome by the residents if we did allow them to walk there. But we do have to be cautious. We have to be cautious. I would hate, my biggest fear, and what's the fear of many health professionals, that we go backwards. I am not enjoying the 5 or 6 weeks that I've been home. And if anybody told me I had to start all over again, I don't know what I would do. So it might be doing the wrong thing if we do open it. That's it, Mayor.
Anybody else want to say something?
What I don't understand is how come we're not shutting down sidewalks and streets? I push my daughter around in the stroller any day. It's nice enough to do that when I'm done with work. We go out and a nice walk around, and I see a lot of my neighbors walking around. Everybody respects the social distancing. I'm passing a lot of people on the sidewalks in the town, or on the roads and the crosswalks. Where do we draw the line? And I think if we're phasing things in, it would be a good sign to reopen this path. And I just think we should go forward and reopen it.
Anybody else?
Maybe one comment, if I may,
Please.
since
You're the voice of reason always. You're our attorney.
no, not necessarily, but
I thought I was the voice of reason.
because of the volume of municipalities that we represent, most public facilities are closed. And the reason that is that these areas, whether for high school students or students, tend to congregate and do not social distance. And what has been determined, and there's probably no science behind it, it's less likely to occur if somebody's just going out for a walk on the sidewalk or in the street than if there's an area that they can go over, park, congregate, meet others. So that's where the basic determinations were coming from. But I could probably tell you that in most communities, most public facilities are closed.
But you could also make the argument that even if you close public, so if people are going to congregate, they're going to congregate somewhere and potentially in even less desirable locations. And thank you, Brian, for saying something that I wanted to say, which is where's the science to support the position on keeping it closed at all?
I just want to add that the one thing that our chief of police, because when the issue was first brought up to me by the Morellos, I had talked to the police chief, and he was worried that people would be driving here from other towns and parking all over the rec field and congregating. And
That's what John just said.
Well, that's from the police chief, right from his mouth, and that's what he's worried about. And we don't have the extra staff on the police force to monitor it. I don't know. I mean, if there's no parking and the residents walk, then that's not an issue. If we don't allow any parking.
Mayor, if I may.
Please.
I think in 3 weeks, which is about May 15th, we will know better whether we can open up any facility. So, I mean, we've waited 6 weeks already. I don't think waiting another 3 weeks would be overtaxing to people. I think we should wait.
I agree.
I agree.
All right. So this will be brought up again at the next council meeting, but during the open portion, I invite the residents to speak, which is coming up very quickly. Is there anybody who have any new business? Old business?
I have some new business, Mayor.
So do I.
Who,
Yeah.
where? Okay,
I was talking with Councilman Van Eck, and we were discussing the issues that we're having in the nursing home in town, and we were just wondering if there was something more that we could do. And then Councilman Van Eck said he had some sort of resolution that he was interested in, and so if Councilman Van Eck would read it or explain it, maybe we could go from there.
well, we can't, what do you mean a resolution?
It-
Not a formal resolution, a suggestion.
A suggestion.
All right, Ben Eck, Councilman?
Sure. So enabling resolution to ensure nursing home compliance. Whereas on January 30th, 2020, the World Health Organization designated the 2019 novel coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak as a public health emergency of international concern. And whereas on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the spread of COVID-19 to be a global pandemic. And whereas on March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States declared a national emergency pursuant to his constitutional and statutory powers, including those granted by Section 201 and 301 of the National Emergencies Act. And consistent with Section 1135 of the Social Security Act as amended, and whereas the governor of the state of New Jersey issued executive orders numbers 102 to 127, and whereas the Center for Disease Control reports that the elderly are the hardest hit by COVID-19, accounting for nearly 80% of the fatalities in the United States, whereas the direction of the President of the United States, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, in consultation with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, issued critical recommendations to state and local governments as well as nursing homes to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and in nursing homes. And whereas the CMS administrator, Seema Verma, stated, administration is calling on the nursing home industry and the state and local leaders to join us by taking action now to ensure the safety of their residents who are among the most vulnerable citizens. And whereas the Borough of Oakland has one nursing home facility, long-term healthcare facilities, and similarly situated facility within its jurisdiction. And whereas as of April 21st, 2020, according to the state of New Jersey's official website, the covid19.nj.gov, COVID-19 deaths at long-term care facilities account for 55% of the total deaths related to COVID-19 in Bergen County. And whereas the Borough of Oakland coordinator of the Office of Emergency Management has been in contact with the nursing home facility, long-term healthcare facility, and similarly situated facility within the jurisdiction of Oakland to confirm that they have the necessary equipment they need to ensure the safety of the patients and staff. And whereas on Monday, April 13th, 2020, Andover Police Department in Sussex County, New Jersey, discovered 17 dead bodies at the Andover Subacute and Rehabilitation Center. And whereas the foremost responsibilities of local government are the safety and well-being of its residents, especially during a health crisis, with the goal of preventing the spread of COVID-19. And whereas pursuant to NJSA 4048-25, the Borough of Oakland may appoint a committee to ensure compliance with the recommendations of CMS and to ensure the safety of its residents and staff within the nursing home facilities, long-term care health facilities, and similarly situated facilities. So now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Oakland hereby would appoint Councilman Talamini, Councilman Pignatelli, and Mayor Schwager to form a committee of the governing body pursuant to NJSA 4048-25 in order to ensure that the one nursing home facility, long-term healthcare facility, and similarly situated facility in Oakland are in compliance with the recommendations of CMS of all the laws and regulations of the CMS guidelines in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and to protect the general health and well-being of all its residents, including senior residents who have been deemed the most vulnerable citizens to COVID-19. Be it furthermore resolved that the mayor and council hereby retain Brian Jakowski as a legal advisor to the committee pursuant to fair and open process to assist in drafting reports, to make any referrals so is required at a cost not to exceed $25,000, and to request reimbursement from FEMA. And I'd just like to add, now that that's done, my grandmother, my Nana, who I'm power of attorney for, is in a nursing home. So this is very personal and very close to me.
She in the Oakland Care Center?
She's not.
Yes?
She is not.
And did you write this yourself?
Me?
No, Councilman Benek?
This is something that I've been working on, yes.
Oh, you did this yourself? Thank you. All right, this will be in discussion, but just so you know, a committee has already been formed. And that is the Roy Balberger. In fact, we have a meeting, Roy Balberger, myself, Councilman Pignatelli, who is from the Board of Health. He is the liaison, and Richard Kunz. And we are meeting on Monday, so we will get back to you. But thank you. That was a very good suggestion. Very much appreciated. And if you can submit that paperwork to us so we have it, it was very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe if Grant would email that to the mayor and council, and then maybe if we need to discuss it further, we can discuss it further, because it's upsetting what's going on with the nursing homes throughout the country. Never mind just in Oakland. And if we could do something locally, I think.
So Mayor, I guess Mayor, I have a question. When was this committee formed? When was that done? Isn't that something you would need a resolution to do?
Before this meeting. I don't even know about your, first time I'm hearing about your resolution. I had no idea you were going to write this.
Wouldn't you
didn't
need a
even talk to
resolution
me about
to
it.
form that committee?
You didn't even talk to me about this.
You didn't talk to any of the governing body about forming that committee. First, I heard you formed a committee.
I have been talking to the nursing home daily. I have been talking to our congressman. I have been talking to the governor's rep, and somebody's shaking his head. You don't think I've been talking? You think I'm lying? I get numbers every day from the nursing home. The health inspector from the state has inspected. We are meeting with them again with our first aid squad, our OEM, our police, and Richard and myself and Councilman Pignatelli. And we are meeting on Monday. I think it's a very nice resolution that you did. I think it would have been nice if we had it ahead of time. So if you could.
I think it would have been nice if we had a resolution to form the committee that you said you formed.
I am speaking. And as Councilman Talamini said, if you could please email it to all of us, we'll have a copy and then we can discuss it further. So I very much appreciate that. Thank you. But next time, give it to us ahead of time. And with that,
but can I make a motion to pass that resolution?
No, not tonight, you
No.
can't. It's out of order.
So how come you didn't have a resolution to form the committee that you did?
Because it's an ad hoc committee. I can do that as a mayor. That's the borough form of government. Next time, ask your advisor to help you about the borough form of government rules. And with that, we'll move into council committee reports. And I don't know who's here. Bobby left. Well, usually, Councilman Talamini. I'm going about the way we usually sit.
Okay, just on the finance tonight, I want to thank everyone that worked on the budget and all the work, especially that David and Rich did on putting this budget together. It's, you know, they had a false start. They started it and then we got hit with coronavirus and they had to start again. And it's hard enough to do it once and then they have to do it twice. They did a fine job, and just thank you for all the hard work and really thank you, David. I mean, since I got on the council, we've had a lot of CFOs, and it's just nice having a steady hand at the ship. And I hope to see you here for a long time. Thank you so much.
But you're not getting a raise.
It's not in the budget.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman, well, who's next? Van Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. As far as the planning board is concerned, most likely the May meeting will be postponed. We're just going to forego the meeting, and there'll be announcement on that very shortly. Is for the Recreation Committee, I'd like to say that there is still a plan to run the spring sports programs. This is dependent on what transpires over the next few weeks. And the summer camp program is being planned, so that doesn't begin until June 29th. So official registration will begin, and we'll see what transpires again in the coming weeks. Fall sports registration is taking place. That's on oaklandrec.org. The next Recreation Committee Commission meeting will be Monday, April 27th at 8 o'clock. We're going to be doing it on Zoom. So you can the login will be distributed within the next few days, and everybody, just like this meeting, is encouraged to attend. The Rec Commission wants everyone to know that how being locked in can adversely affect mental well-being. There's resources available for those who need it or for those who may be feeling a bit overwhelmed by what's going on. And you can visit letstalkoakland.us. That's www.letstalkoakland.us for resources and articles on that. For the Communication Commission, I would like to report that we have a new program this week in Oakland that is airing. That's very exciting. There'll be content you can submit for that, and people can watch it at 9 a.m., 6:30 at midnight every day. There'll be continuing episodes. The next episode will be aired soon. So if you have photos of how you're showing support of first responders and those types of things as well, we'll include that in future episodes. So OCC at oakland-nj.org with your photo and your family name, you can submit. And the next meeting is May 4th at 7:30, and we will be doing that with Zoom just like this, and the information on that will be on the Borough website. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bialy.
Yes, Mayor, thank you so much. I just want to give a shout out to Ariel, who continues to coordinate the volunteers who are helping with the shopping program for seniors and those in the community with disabilities or medical conditions. If anyone needs assistance, they can reach out at the Senior Center at 201-405-7731 or by email at seniors@oakland-nj.org. Also, Ariel tells me that they're going to be doing a Zumba class. So seniors or anybody in the community that would like to join for exercise, a Zumba class is going to be held on Thursday, April 24th at 3 p.m. This is an online virtual class. You will need a computer or tablet with internet access to participate. We have opened the class up to everyone in the community, so anyone could be joining in. Zoom meetings and details will be available on Facebook and the Oakland website. Michael is posting that information online.
What is the date of the Zoom class?
The date again is Thursday, April 24th at 3 p.m.
No, it's either Thursday, the 23rd or Friday, the 24th.
Okay, then I have the wrong information here. It's Friday. I would say it's Thursday, the 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and DPW and the mayor's already reported this. The only little glitch we're having is with the pickup for yard waste. There's a staffing problem with Suburban, and they promised to pick it up. Just leave your yard waste at the curb. They're having no difficulty picking up our recycled material as they did today for us, and on the garbage pickup Mondays and Thursdays, Tuesdays and Fridays. But they're having a little difficulty with the yard waste. So, but just leave it up at a curb, and by the end of the week, they'll be taking that away as well. So I want to thank everybody, all the DPW guys, the people at the senior center that are helping out with the volunteer program. We're doing this as a family, and I very much appreciate all the hard work and volunteer work that's going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next one would be Councilman, I'm looking at where everybody sits, I'm figuring it out. Councilman Pignatelli.
He's muted.
I'm sorry, I got it back. I would like to thank all of the EMS workers in Oakland for the outstanding job they've all been doing. They really make us proud that we have these people helping us here in Oakland. As far as my committees, public events had a Zoom meeting this past Monday. It wasn't a very long meeting because we discussed that we had to cancel the Easter egg hunt, which we all know, and that we had to cancel the Memorial Day parade, which are the two events that we would have been participating in. The next event would be the carnival. We know that's all in June, I believe, 24th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, I believe.
It's earlier this year, Pat. I believe
Yeah.
it's earlier this year.
Okay, I don't have my calendar with me to give the exact date. But anyway, the Public Events Committee decided that we would wait till our meeting on May 18th, which by then we should have further instruction from the state on what we can do, what we can't do. We haven't signed any contracts for the fireworks or for the Port of San or anything else for the carnival. So we still have time. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we might be able to do something. What that is, I really don't know.
Councilman, is there a possibility that if we had to cancel the carnival, that we could still have the fireworks? Is that a possibility?
I mean, it still requires people to be in close proximity to one another.
Sure.
I know the fireworks company made a suggestion possibly of giving everyone a mask, but again, you know, one of the requirements is that we don't participate with groups of more than 10, so that would be impossible.
True. Good
So
point.
we'll know more. Like I said, on May 18th is our next meeting. May 15th, we should have more direction from the governor and the president on what activities we can and cannot do, and probably guidelines for what things we can do, what the guidelines are going to be, whether or not we still have to maintain social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that was the Public Events Committee. The Board of Health is meeting, another Zoom meeting on Monday, the 27th, and the Green Team is meeting on Tuesday, the 28th. And those are both going to be Zoom meetings also.
So you have to invite Rachel Spina to participate because she was appointed to the Green Team.
Yes, yes. And I just want to, Mayor, I know it's not really a committee report, but I have to echo the approach we are making with the nursing home. It's very disturbing what happened in the other communities. And, as you have said many, many times, the people in the nursing home are considered Oakland residents.
Mhm.
And we have to make sure that these guidelines, the CMS that Councilman Vinek mentioned, are being adhered to. I mean, we need to have them tell us personally. It's going to be another Zoom meeting, but we need for them to definitely.
You'll be
answer
there.
questions. Yeah, I'll be there. I have several questions that I need to ask them to make sure they're in compliance.
And you have the expertise because that was your field, so you're the perfect person to ask the questions.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope to live up to your expectations. Thank you. That's all I have to say, Mayor.
Councilman, Levy,
Levy, you
you still
remember.
there?
I'm still here. Thank you, Mayor. So the shade tree has not met, obviously, since the corona outbreak. However, Ed Clark and Pete Keycott have been doing inspections for permits. We have run into a few situations over the last 4 weeks with folks cutting down trees without permits. We do want to remind everybody that regardless of what your tree company says, before you remove a tree, contact the borough, get a permit. We come out, we inspect, see whether it's a dangerous tree, a dead tree, or whether this is something that you want to remove a live, healthy tree. We do charge a fee, and the purpose is so that we can replant, or you can replant on your property. But we want to maintain the canopy. It's good for the environment. It's good for the town. It's good for the look of the town. And that's the reason for it. We are looking at a vehicle by which we can get tree companies that work in town to be mandatorily compliant. Because a lot of these tree cutting down situations were actually tree companies. One of them was with a tree company that's actually done work for the town. So whether or not we try and I don't, again, Brian, you're going to have to ring in on this, but whether we can do a three and out or something, you get suspended from the borough for a period of time if you do work without a permit. So we're going to look at that. The flood commission is also not met. However, I have gotten about 4 or 5 phone calls in the last few weeks as people's flood policies are getting renewed. Obviously, we're still seeing the results of Hurricane Sandy and the Bigger Waters Act, so everybody's flood insurances are still going up. I reached out to Smart Vent, who is they make what are called flood vents. They go in foundations in flood-prone properties, or AE flood-prone properties, I should say. And they can help you get some reduction in your flood costs. I'm trying to get the president of the company to come up and maybe speak at either a council meeting or a flood commission meeting, so that we can start doing some things to help residents get a little bit of relief from the highly increased flood, premiums. Sewer and water, just because I tried to chime in before and couldn't. Replacing this treatment plant, which is what it is right now, with a pump station is a step in a better direction, number one. As far as people talking about us doing things without consulting anybody, actually, before I was chairman of the Sewer and Water Committee, I believe, Mayor, you had 1 or 2 public meetings, or John, maybe you remember, over at the senior center. And then I know since I've been on the Sewer and Water Committee, we had another public meeting. So we've had numerous public meetings about our sewer and water situations, particularly for the Skyview residents. This facility is going to have to be where it is, because we don't have an alternative. This is where the lines, and again, John, you're more familiar with this all than I am, not Bialy, Yakimic. This is where the lines are running. We have to work with what we have, or this turns into an unmanageable project. But part of this is that we're still trying to get what we're calling a phase 1 approval for our wastewater management plan from New Jersey DEP and Hackensack, North Jersey District Water Supply Commission. They've agreed to it verbally, but not in writing yet. So there's nothing set in stone. Nothing's going to happen tomorrow. So, I want everybody to understand that we're not going to do something without talking to people, but we're not there yet. We're trying to be proactive. We're hoping that we get it so that when we do get it, we'll be able to react quickly to it. It's the same thing that I'm going to segue with that right into capital projects. You heard David talk about Patriots Way Bridge. And this is a piece of our infrastructure that's failed. The state came in, did a repair. It was a temporary repair at best. And it's getting tired. It was never meant to be a long-term thing. We have to fix this bridge before something bad happens or somebody gets hurt or killed. So, I've spoken to Kevin Boswell, who's very graciously agreed to start doing some of the preliminary work in advance of us actually having this, officially budgeted. And he understands that. But the idea is to cut down our lead time as much as possible. I think, John, was about, 2 months for you guys to get your stuff together?
We talked about the 2 months. That's very aggressive. And we'll try to do it.
So we've got, 2-3 months with Boswell. We can't hold them to anything specific because this was all discussed Friday and a little bit yesterday. We're going to have another conversation this Friday so that we can try and move forward. But, Boswell's got 2 or 3 months. I believe US Bridge, if that's the way we decide to go, John, there, 6 months from order date to getting the materials on site. We have to come up with a traffic plan, what we're going to do with all these vehicles coming in and out of there. We may wind up having to do Glen Gray Road first to make that a little more passable so that we can, all the 450 some odd residents up there or properties up there can get in and out of there without Patriots Way Bridge.
Yeah, we're doing the brainstorming now. We have a ton of utilities on the bridge, which in my mind are.
That's the next thing I was
critical.
going to. We've got water lines, electric, we've got cable. I imagine there's fiber optic for FiOS under there.
Yeah, so we're doing all the brainstorming this week.
Well, listen, let me help you with that. John, you get a couple of 2x4s, you put them up like a teepee, you drag all the wires over the top, pull them across, another set of teepee over there, you're done.
Sounds good, Councilman.
All right, I'm now finished, thank you.
You are?
Rich is cringing.
Okay.
Rich is just thinking of something he's
That was
gonna
a
go
little
out there and do it.
That was just a little smart.
And unfortunately, Councilman Knapp had to leave. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open to the public.
So
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go. Rich Morello.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Rick Morello, 8 River Road. I'm very disappointed in the decision on the walking path. It's a lot of people are going to be very disappointed also. But what can I do? And I want to thank Mr. Van Eck. I think he's the only one on the council that agrees with me. But I know everybody's paranoid and, we're all living in a tough time. But I just hope no one gets killed walking on a street that I have to, go on the street from the sidewalk so that somebody else can pass. So again, thank you for your time. Appreciate you listening. By the way, Marilyn wants to say something.
Yeah.
Hi, Marilyn. Unfortunately, you have to give your name again.
Yes, Marilyn Morello, 8 River Road, Oakland, New Jersey. Yes, thank you. Thank you all for at least considering what we were asking.
Always.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let you know that, of course, we've lived here for 49 years. We're right near the rec field. So we pass by it several times a day. Just for the record, not that many people are on the path all day long. We would generally go over around 2:30 in the afternoon. If there were 10 people on the path, it would be maximum. Most of those 10 people were senior citizens. And as you probably know, senior citizens, because they're of that generation, know how to follow the rules. I have been, having been raised and gone to Catholic school my whole life of education, I am a rule follower. So when I'm over there, now it's a mask. At that time, it wasn't a mask when we first started going. We follow all the rules. We social distance. And again, just as a reasonable person, perhaps if before imposing this mandate, someone of authority would have observed the walking path during the day to see just what kind of things were going on, perhaps the decision would be different. And I do understand what you're saying about perhaps places that were closed off, those populations would now come to us. If that were the case, yes, then you say, you know what, this isn't a good idea. We should close it. I just feel as if it was closed prematurely. And someone had made the comment that they were closed all along. I don't believe that to be true. There were signs that said fields are closed, and no one was going on those fields, including we seniors who were walking the path. In terms of walking on the street, I can very clearly say that on my street, I cannot walk on it or would have difficulty walking on it because I have reported to the police in town many times that, generally speaking, not at this time because of the pandemic, but people come down our street like it's Raceway Park. They go under the trestle and there is no place to walk safely. I've come close to going into the river, getting away from cars that are speeding. So that's a different issue, but just in terms of safety walking as a senior citizen. So again, I understand and respect the decision that has been made, but I just wanted to voice that particular aspect.
Nothing on robocall.
Oh, and my husband is just reminding me that it would have perhaps been a good idea to also indicate that the paths were closed on the nightly report of what was going on in Oakland. It was never reported, and it's not on the written thing that we get via email either. So it's just, I don't know, it just seems to be kind of randomly done. That's all. But again, Linda, you're a super mayor. We really appreciate that you always do take questions and you try to get solutions, and we appreciate it. It's a tough job.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Not a dead issue, believe me. It's not a dead issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You all be safe and have a good evening.
Everybody.
You too. Anybody else? Any other public? I don't see anybody.
Me,
There's
there's
a lot
several
of-
people there.
Mike,
Mike-
Dr.
Mike
Mike wants to
Guadagnino.
speak.
Mike,
Mayor, I had my hand raised for a number of minutes as per the instructions of the borough.
wait, I don't see you. I don't have you now. Who's talking?
Okay, that's John McCann. He has his hand raised.
Okay, you have to give your name and address.
I mean, just so that everybody's aware, if they click on their screen, participants, there's a box that says raise hand, so the host of the meeting can see it, because we have more participants than screen.
That's the problem. Our screen only holds 9 at a time.
So-
Okay, so John, you have to give your name and address.
Sure, Mayor. Good evening, John McCann, 13 Ponds Way, here in Oakland. First of all, I want to just say that I empathize with the decision makers on the council, the governing body. These are not easy decisions to make with regard to parks opening and not opening. And certainly on this issue, reasonable people can agree to disagree. The science on that, I can tell you firsthand. There's an article from the journal from JAMA recently published about a month ago that shows that the virus outdoors dissipates much like oil does a drop of oil does in a lake. And I would urge anyone that's on the health committee to read the science of what's out there as it relates. And yes, keeping the parks closed due to an infiltration because the surrounding parks are closed is a real issue that you have to grapple with. And I'm glad I'm not making that call and that decision. But there's one thing that came up tonight that I think Mr. Van Eck's proposal, Mayor, is critical. I have a question just a quick question for Pat Piglitelli. Councilman Piglitelli, prior to the mayor saying that there was this ad hoc committee, were you aware that there was an ad hoc committee tonight that you're participating on?
Actually, what I did was this morning, I spoke to Richard, our borough administrator, and I guess he spoke to the mayor regarding the matter.
Okay, but were you aware that you were on an ad hoc committee?
No, not that it was an ad hoc committee, no.
Okay. Mayor, I would submit to you that this issue where over almost 60%, I think was the number as of yesterday, of the deaths occurring in Bergen County are coming from senior citizens, long-term care facilities. I don't think that an ad hoc committee is sufficient to deal with the complex issues with regard to compliance to CMS. This is not, these are not issues that if you're not versed in it, you can easily grapple with a phone call in a visit. I've received numerous text messages that I will be glad to share with you from.
Please, I look forward to that.
Yes, I will share those with you, okay? For people at your facility here, at our facility here in Oakland, where these people have been cut off from their loved ones due to the isolation and protocols that have been put in place. The main goal that we need to do as a government and as a community is to ensure, one of the things we do know is that for the last 6 weeks, okay, these facilities have been asking for PPEs and there's been no response. An ad hoc committee is insufficient, in my judgment, based upon the large amount of deaths coming from these facilities, particularly here in Bergen. And I think any reasonable health and science person would agree with that. I would urge you to speak to your borough attorney about the complexities of CMS guidelines. And on that issue, Mr. Jakowski, if you would provide to me the statute that the mayor is relying on to create an ad hoc committee for your form of government, I would be eager to learn that from you. Okay, because under the statute, New Jersey statutes for a borough form of government, I am not aware of an ad hoc committee that could be presented without a resolution, without a public discussion, and without a vote. So if you have a resolution, or excuse me, if you have a statute that supports that position, please share it with me as well.
I'm sure the borough attorney will get back to you on that. Thank you.
I look forward to it.
And you'll send me your text that you.
I absolutely will. Absolutely. I'll forward it.
I appreciate that. Mike Guadagnino.
Okay. Mike Guadagnino, 34 Hopper Street. I see the Morellos aren't there. I was going to address their concern with the walking path. I'm the rec chairman. Back in March, when this first happened, and the NBA and a bunch of other leagues and college leagues and high school leagues began to shut down, we had an emergency meeting and we shut down recreation. For obvious reasons. We tabled it until our next commission meeting, which was the end of March, because at that time we were told it would be a 2-week type of thing. Obviously, we're now at 5 weeks and going into 6 weeks. Situation with the walking path, I spoke last week with the mayor and with several other council members and with Mr. Coons. We had I put together a small ad hoc committee of some of my rec commissioners, and we support opening the walking path. That's our personal opinion. We're not the governing body, obviously. We support opening the walking path, walking one direction, encouraging people to wear masks, wear gloves, etc. Which you see around town. You drive around town. I was at the post office yesterday. People are masked, people are gloves. They know. They don't need the police down there to tell them to do that. We put up some signs to say, walk this way. People will do that. People will follow along. But obviously there's difference of opinions. So we came up with the compromise plan, which was once the governor opens the parks, the state parks and the county parks, we open the walking path to start off with. And we also open up the rec fields and Great Oak Park for passive recreation. Again, encouraging people to wear masks, people to stay far away from each other, et cetera. And then we work on unwinding the parks as things change or how long they change. But I just wanted to reach out to know that Mr. Morello there, understand that, yes, we do support the walking path, but we understand that as Mr. McCann said, reasonable people can disagree. And so we came up with a compromise plan on how we can do it, how we should do this. I also just want to address real quick what Councilman Van Eck said about, we hope to have our spring sports. Realistically, it's going to be difficult, but we're hoping, there's no reason to give up right now and say we're going to cancel our spring sports at this time. Because we have a backup plan, which on Monday night's commission meeting, we're going to discuss. And hopefully it goes through. If it doesn't go through, then it doesn't go through. But at this time, there's no reason to, because we are getting contacted and people asking what's going on. Just so the mayor and council can understand that we are hoping to still hold those sports. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't see anybody. Do anybody?
Mayor, it's Michael. There's 3 people.
Okay.
Elizabeth Benducci.
Me. Hi, Elizabeth, you have to give your name and address.
Yes. Elizabeth Benducci, 9 Valley View Avenue. I wanted to talk about the walking path. I can see both sides. However, I'm with Pat on there's no harm in another couple weeks to see what's going on. My husband and I walk every day. We see Pat, we see a whole bunch of people. We do our mile loop around. I live over by the rec field area as well. It's not easy because there's not sidewalks, but I don't agree with anybody's assessment that people follow the rules. The other day, walking, there was a bunch of guys up at the Valley Middle School playing basketball together. I see people walking on the path. In years past, it totally infuriated me how many dogs were on the walk path. Yelled at some guy who had a roller rink. They don't follow the rules. So I just can't see opening it up. Like somebody pointed out, I forget who it was. Yes, we will be the target for other areas because we see that with our playgrounds. Somebody's playground's closed for revision. Oh, I see it on the mom's board. Oakland's got theirs open. It's just going to be a hot spot. So if we can just wait the couple of more weeks, let's be patient. That's just my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mike has some people.
Mayor Judy Sullivan.
Hi, Judy.
She's muted.
Trying to unmute.
Judy, you have to unmute.
I'm trying.
We hear you now.
Okay.
You have to give your name and address.
Yes. Judy Sullivan, 55 Overlook Ridge. I have 2 questions. One, I was listening very carefully to the budget presentation, and of course the doorbell rang and all the dogs were going crazy, and I missed the part about the mayor started to talk about she's been attending mayor's meetings, and there's been some concern about the collection of taxes and the remittance of those monies over to the various school boards. I had saw that there was a comment about issuing a certain type of investment bond. I didn't quite catch the name of that. And then I saw that you're going to be doing a bond raise anyway to pay mostly, it looks like, for the bridge. And then there's some other stuff in there about sidewalks and streets, but I didn't capture, because of the disruption, I apologize. Do you have a plan for, an immediate plan for not being able to collect and remit those monies at this time? And then I have a second question. So I don't know if you want to hear both questions or.
Give us both questions and Richard will answer it.
Okay. And the second question is, I don't really know the answer to this about the walking paths and the other municipal parks that are open or closed, but I can tell you living on Oakland, Overlook Ridge is now become sort of like the 287 of Oakland. We have so much foot and vehicle traffic up here. It has become extremely dangerous to even be outside on your front lawn. There's like groups of 10 to 20 people walking by, especially on the weekends. They're not socially distancing. They have all of their dogs, and it's a rather remote street up here. So it's small. It's a very small street as you get higher and higher up. And I was doing some gardening, and I had to run closer to my house every 5 seconds. I'm exaggerating, but maybe every 2 to 3 minutes. And what I was doing was I was trimming trees, and I had this tree pruner in my hand. So I had to keep putting that down and running towards my front porch because there was just these large groups of people that were My driveway is very short. A lot of us have short driveways in the development. And in addition, cars, like amazing amounts of cars. I don't know where these people are coming from. I think it is because the state and county and municipal parks are closed, that everyone's joyriding all around the perimeter roads that ring the Ramapo Mountains. And I don't know what to do about it because it's not illegal, right? They can walk and they can.
I thought there's no parking up there.
There isn't, but I think what's happening is they're finding little places to park inside the development. And I know our homeowners association is aware of this, and I know that they're trying to work on it. They've closed, I believe, the lot down below, but I think they might be parking on Ramapo River Road or on some of the streets that are directly across from the development, and then walking up here from there. It's not a short walk. It's not a long walk. You can easily get up here. You just cut up that side street. I forgot the name of it. The really, really steep street that leads up here. And then they come down past all our houses. So it's become like, I've never in the 15 years living here have seen it so incredibly busy. And, the little kids on the streets up here, and I'm screaming at my neighbor, you better get the kids inside. There's so many cars. It's unbelievable. So I just
Judy, this issue was brought up by your homeowners association. And we've been on the phone with him and Richard and our police chief. And if there's parking that is illegal, I need someone to call the police department. They'll come up there. I've made announcements about the no parking.
We do. We call the police. We call a lot. We had some issues with some hunters recently that were hunting up here behind our homes. We actually called New Jersey Fish and Wildlife ourselves. They come up here, they claim they're hunting on state property, and then they drag the carcasses through the municipal and county lots, which ring that road that goes all the way up to the water tower. There's a lot of blood at the end of Overlook, a lot of stuff that's left over. And then they ride out, really happy. And I didn't see this last particular time, but one of my neighbors called me really upset that the guy was, grinning at her driving by with this really loud pickup truck with 2 giant dead bucks in the back of his pickup truck. And there's not much we can do about it because we don't have the manpower to go into the woods and to find these people. So like directly across the street from me, there's some empty deer baits. There's like those big blue things that they put up for deer baits. There's a camera up there. It's not even their property. It's like county municipal property. So,
well, Richard, do you have any ideas?
I think, Mayor, you hit on one of the main ones, was to call the police when you think that there's something going on that's illegal, and let them do their job and investigate and see if there's anything to that. It's a hard thing when it's a public road. You can't really control the traffic on it other than speeding, but volume you can't. But we can make sure that people are up there for a legitimate purpose. If I can just turn to the question that Ms. Sullivan had on interest on taxes and TAN. So Judy, what we were talking about was what our ability was, what other towns were doing in terms of waiving interest on taxes and how that may impact tax collections for the second quarter, and that doing so may lead to a need to issue TANs, tax anticipation notes, which is short-term financing, kind of like a bridge loan, while we're waiting for tax revenue to come in. And there's a rather substantial cost to that because we're paying interest on it. So the idea here is to put ourselves in a position where the tax revenue that's coming in is sufficient to pay the county and the schools, and have enough there so that we don't need to incur that extra cost of floating interim debt.
So you do anticipate issuing those notes, or you don't?
We do not. We do not.
Or you're just reserving a surplus or some type of other?
No, we're assuming that people are going to pay the taxes.
I gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
All right. Thank you. Who's next?
Mayor, one more, John and Jody.
John Gafredo, 44 Sioux Avenue.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted clarification with regards to the decision about OLPH mass on Channel 77. When did you say the communication committee meeting or when they were going to review their bylaws?
I didn't say because I don't go to the communications committee meetings. Who knows when the next meeting is?
Councilman
Mayor, yeah, I had just announced, the next meeting is coming up on May 4th at 7:30. We are in the process of reviewing the bylaws, but John, right? That's what you said, your name, John? I think what's going on with what was raised earlier is a little bit about the mayor's decision to go ahead and decree that the broadcast could no longer happen. It is continuing, thankfully. I know Father Thomas sent out an email to all the parishioners regarding this, and I saw that communication as well. So thank you for bringing this up, and thank you for sharing it. I mean, I think it's just important for everyone to note that, the bylaws, there is a form for submissions, and it says for 2 weeks prior. And really the reason that was in there is because you want to give volunteers enough time to get down to the commission, the control room. Shout out to Ryan, who right now is in there braving, going out with COVID-19 and being in the control room to make this broadcast happen. So thank you, Ryan. I forgot to thank you during my report. I did last council meeting on the Zoom. But that Don Burns, who was a councilman, who is a member of the TV committee on the commission, was willing to take the recording. There was another parishioner who recorded the mass at the Saturday night vigil, and then go ahead and bring it down and do the upload, review it, and do the upload. So that way the next morning we could have the broadcast, which primarily was for the nursing home residents, bringing up the nursing home again, nursing home residents to have an activity on Sunday, which is a beautiful thing that's been happening for many, 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 many years. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. So I'm not sure where the decision came from or why, but that's just a little more context on what was going on. So at the next meeting, we're going to be, Mayor, I'm actually finishing.
I am going to interrupt. This is the public portion, and I'm going to interrupt because you're making statements that are not totally true. So to get to the point, OLPH is still being filmed. It's still being shown until you sit down with your bylaws. And what the Credos asked is when the next meeting is, and you had already stated the next meeting. And I did not declare that it should be shut off. I said it was a violation of the bylaws, and an exception was made, and it was decided that it should not be done before the Easter holiday, and that to give you time to go over the bylaws. And what you have to do is go over the bylaws and be fair to everyone, not just houses of worship, not just the nursing home, and not just any resident that comes along. It has to be fair and equal to everyone. So the Credos, you got the date of the next OCC
That's not the
meeting.
situation at all, but thank you, Mayor, for interrupting.
You're very welcome. Who is next on the public portion? Mike?
Mayor, no one has their hand raised at this moment.
Okay,
Motion
motion
to close.
closed. Second?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bills to be paid, Councilman Talamini.
Yeah, my mic's on. Bills to be paid. $431,702.46. So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Levy,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting will be, at this time, it's still going to be a virtual meeting. It will be via Zoom on May 13th. Good night, everybody. Stay home and
Good
stay
night, all.
safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Wait,
Good night.
Wait. Did you say wait?
no, good night.
Good night.
Oh.
Get out of my iPad.